See, you don't quit it, and you don't quit in sports. You retire. You don't get to quit. It's not an option. See, someone told me that a long time ago. That ain't even an option. And the person told me that, he ain't here anymore. He died. This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is. You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it. That's the great thing about sports. You play to win. And I don't care if you don't have any wins. You go play to win. When you start telling me it doesn't matter, then retire. Get out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Randall Handles Football Podcast. I'm your host, Randall Tevis. So first off, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone out there. We are finally on the week of Christmas, and for the first time in a long time, as far as I can remember, we're actually going to have football games on Christmas Day. That's right. Christmas falls on a Friday this year, and as a result, there's going to be no Thursday night football game this week, and instead there's going to be a Friday game between the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints, which promises to be an exciting one. So before we get into this week's matchups, let's preview what happened last week. All in all, my total record for last week's picks was 12 correct and 4 incorrect, for a record of 12-4. My incorrect picks were picking Minnesota over Chicago, San Francisco over Dallas, Pittsburgh over Cincinnati, and the Los Angeles Rams over the New York Jets. That's right, I said the New York Jets did get their first win, in fact, last week against a playoff contender in the Los Angeles Rams. So and not only that, they actually went into Los Angeles and took them down. So congratulations, New York Jets fans. You guys got your first win of the season, and you guys will no longer be able to select Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 overall pick. You know, it's kind of one of those you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't kind of situations. So, hey, but congratulations. At least you're not going to go winless this entire season. My lock of the week last week was the Cleveland Browns beating the New York Giants, and that did come true. And my upset of the week, again, if you want to call it an upset of the week, was the Los Angeles Chargers beating the Las Vegas Raiders on Thursday Night Football. And that too did happen. It came down to overtime with a QB sneak by Justin Herbert to win the game for the Los Angeles Chargers. So, again, my lock of the week and my upset of the week were both correct. So with that being said, let's just jump into this penultimate week of the NFL season. That's right, week 16 of the NFL season. So starting off with, like I said, we have a Friday afternoon game between the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. Now, if we recall, in the past 2 seasons, the New Orleans Saints and the Minnesota Vikings have played each other in the playoffs. And to probably everyone's surprise, the Minnesota Vikings have been the team that has come out on top in both of those matchups. It all started with 2 years ago, the Minneapolis Miracle, where New Orleans was up by, 4 or 5 points with like 5 seconds left in the game. Case Keenum was the starting quarterback for the Vikings at that time, and he threw a simple out route to Stephon Diggs, and for no reason whatsoever, the New Orleans Saints defender literally just fell down on the ground, never even tried to tackle Stephon Diggs, and 70 yards later, Stephon Diggs scores a touchdown, and the Minnesota Vikings upset the New Orleans Saints in advance to the NFC conference game, I believe it was. Last season, again, the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints played each other in the first round of the playoffs. With the New Orleans Saints being heavy favorites, the Minnesota Vikings upset the Saints and won the game on a little fade, a little jump ball route to Kyle Rudolph in the end zone that really sealed the game for the Minnesota Vikings and again eliminated the New Orleans Saints. So this is a bit of a revenge game for the New Orleans Saints. I think for the first time in a few years, the New Orleans Saints will beat the Minnesota Vikings. I just think the Vikings aren't as good of a team this year. I don't know if it was just the departure of a few key players from their defensive line, or if it was the departure of Stephon Diggs, or what's really happening in Minnesota. But for whatever reason, they just don't appear to be the same team. And of course, New Orleans did lose last week. These last 2 weeks, I should say. Last week to the Kansas City Chiefs, the week before that to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think New Orleans is really going to come out motivated and have something to prove. And I think New Orleans is going to win this game on Friday and show to the entire world that they are one of the better NFC teams. So again, I'm picking the New Orleans Saints to win this matchup here on Christmas Day. This week is also a little bit different as we have not just one, not just two, but 3 Saturday games as well this week. Starting off with, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Tampa Bay came back ferociously in the fourth quarter last week against the Atlanta Falcons and ended up winning that game. I think it was 31-27 they won that game. So again, a Tom Brady-led team, specifically the Buccaneers team this season, is never really out of it until the clock shows 0, right? Brady's been doing these fourth quarter comebacks his whole entire career, so that shouldn't have surprised anybody. With this week's matchup, I don't think Detroit has nearly enough firepower to keep up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers can beat you running the ball. I think they can beat you throwing the ball. And so I'm really excited to see Tampa Bay really try to light up the scoreboard and really show that they're too are going to be a dominant playoff team. I'm picking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the Detroit Lions on Saturday. The next matchup, our Saturday afternoon game, sees the Miami Dolphins going into Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Now, Miami was coming off of a win last week where they didn't exactly play perfectly against the New England Patriots. Tua Tagovailoa did not throw any touchdowns, but he did rush for 2 touchdowns. I think ultimately they won the game like 22-12. So it's not exactly a great showing. But hey, if we look at last week's matchups too with the Raiders lost last week to the Los Angeles Chargers on Thursday Night Football. So, both of these teams aren't exactly coming off of impressive wins. And for that reason, I think the Raiders have a little bit more motivation as they still want to stay in the playoff hunt. I'm going to pick the Raiders to win this game. I know this is a bit of an upset. Miami is favored to win this game. Miami probably is the better team. But I am going to pick the Raiders to win this game. I think Derek Carr is going to have a good game. If he can avoid turning the ball over, then they should be well on the way to actually winning this game. So again, between the Dolphins and the Raiders, I'm picking the Raiders to win this matchup. And our last Saturday game sees the San Francisco 49ers. Are they going on the road or are they playing at home? It's hard to tell. But they're playing the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. So it's kind of like a home game for both of these teams, in a sense, considering San Francisco's new home stadium is in Arizona. But ultimately, Arizona is given the home team for this matchup. Just a little play on it. And anyways, I have Arizona winning this game. San Francisco has looked lifeless these last few weeks, and there's no way I'm going to pick them. The Cardinals' offense has been looking pretty good. Last week, they put up, I believe it was over 30 points against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think Arizona's still going out here trying to make that last playoff spot. They have the Chicago Bears right on their tail. They can't afford to lose this game. So I'm picking the Arizona Cardinals to beat the San Francisco 49ers in both of their home stadiums. So that brings us to our Sunday morning matchups. Starting off with, on Sunday, we have the Carolina Panthers going into Washington to take on the Washington football team. And this is going to be my upset of the week, as I'm picking the Carolina Panthers to beat the Washington football team. The Washington football team has been on an absolute tear since Alex Smith took over as quarterback. It all kind of started with their upset win over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday Night Football. Nobody expected the Washington team to win, except I did pick them as my upset of the week that week, and they did get that win. However, it remains to be seen if Alex Smith is going to be the starting quarterback for Washington. Last week it was Dwayne Haskins, and they didn't quite get the job done against the Seattle Seahawks. They made it a close game. They only lost by 5 points, and they had a chance to win it there at the end, but it did come up short. I think Carolina here is going to be the overall better team. They're able to run the ball. They're able to throw the ball. And so for my upset of the week, I'm picking the Carolina Panthers. The next matchup sees the Indianapolis Colts going into Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. And while Pittsburgh's been on a bit of a slide, I think they've lost 3 straight. Now they're sitting at a record of 11-3. And you can probably go ahead and make that 4 straight losses. I'm picking the Colts here to win this game against the Steelers. Believe it or not, the Steelers aren't even the favored team in their home stadium. That's right, the Indianapolis Colts are going into Pittsburgh, and the Indianapolis Colts are the favored team here in this matchup. And so with that being said, I am going to go with the favorites here. I am picking the Indianapolis Colts to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. The next matchup sees the Atlanta Falcons going into Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. Now listen, I know Atlanta had a good showing last week against the Buccaneers before they ultimately blew it. But like I've been saying all season long, I don't think there's any team that can really keep up with the Kansas City Chiefs, punch for punch, throw for throw. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are the team to beat right now in both the AFC and the entire NFL. So I'm picking the Kansas City Chiefs here to beat the Atlanta Falcons. And I think with this win, they will officially lock up the number 1 seed and that first round bye in the playoffs. The next matchup sees the Chicago Bears going into Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Now, again, the Jaguars are in a bit of a tank for Trevor kind of mode. However, I think this is going to be a really close game. Gardner Minshew has been playing some good football for the Jaguars since he came back, and I think he can do enough to keep this game close. However, I'm going to pick the Chicago Bears to win this game. Chicago has been on a bit of a tear. Their defense is playing lights out. Trubisky has been playing good football. So I'm picking the Chicago Bears to win this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. The next matchup sees the Cincinnati Bengals going into Houston to take on the Texans. Now, I was trying to decide if I wanted this to be my lock of the week, as I am picking the Houston Texans to win this game. However, a part of me thinks that there is a chance that the Bengals could come out and win this game. I don't think it's very likely. I think that Cincinnati got their last win of the season last week against the Steelers. So, I really wanted to pick Houston as my lock of the week, but I am going to pick New Orleans back from our Friday night matchup. I am picking New Orleans to be my lock of the week, with Houston a very close second. Last week, Houston really had a chance to win that game against the Indianapolis Colts last week, if not for a fumble in the end zone by their wide receiver, Kuti. If he would have held on to the ball and just got into the end zone, they would have had the lead with, like a minute left in the game. So they had a chance to win that game. Houston's record doesn't exactly show how good they have been playing. I think Deshaun Watson definitely has solidified himself as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Finally, without DeAndre Hopkins, he's showcasing that even without wide receivers, he can still make plays and still put up numbers. And so, if the season shows anything, it's that Watson is a top 5 quarterback. Hopefully, with their top 5 pick, the Houston Texans can get some help for Watson there on the offense, and they could be a better team next year. But for this game, I am picking the Houston Texans to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. The next matchup sees the New York Giants going into Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Not much to say here. The Giants, after the surprising win against the Seattle Seahawks, they have absolutely sucked. Whether it's Daniel Jones being quarterback or Colt McCoy being quarterback, they haven't been able to really get the job done. And I think Baltimore's been absolutely on fire, putting up like 30-plus points these last few weeks, and I think that's going to continue. I have Baltimore winning this game, and I think it's going to be pretty much a blowout, and Baltimore's going to win this game pretty handedly. So again, the Ravens over the Giants in this Week 16 matchup. Continuing on, we have a battle of NFC West division winner hopefuls as the Los Angeles Rams go into Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Now, if this game was played 1 week ago before the Rams lost to the Jets, I probably would have been picking the Los Angeles Rams to win this game. And it could be a simple case of the Los Angeles Rams were overlooking the New York Jets and they were really planning for this game against the Seattle Seahawks, as this is the game that's more important for the division winner. That could be the case. However, you just don't lose to a winless team in Week 15. So there's no way I'm going to pick the Los Angeles Rams to win this game. Even though Seattle hasn't been playing very good, after Russell Wilson's very hot start, like the first 8 weeks of the season or so, he's cooled way down, and that doesn't make me too excited for him in their Super Bowl aspirations. But I think as of right now, Seattle probably is the team to beat in the NFC West, and so I'm picking the Seattle Seahawks to win this matchup against the Rams in the NFC West. In the NFC West showdown, that will pretty much lock up who the division winner is if Seattle wins. So I'm picking the Seahawks here to win this Week 16 matchup against the Los Angeles Rams. Continuing on, we have the Denver Broncos going into Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Now, I know the Chargers came off that good win last week against the Las Vegas Raiders, And I think they are going to continue that momentum, and they're going to win this game against the Denver Broncos. For the Broncos, all you're really hoping to find out, the jury's still out on Drew Lock if he's going to be the franchise quarterback or not. So all you're really hoping over this last few games is just to figure out if Drew Lock really is the answer for the Denver Broncos. I think if he continues to play well, then they'll probably roll with him as their starting quarterback for the next few seasons. But again, that remains to be seen if he really is that franchise quarterback. I'm picking the Los Angeles Chargers to win this game against the Broncos. Our next matchup sees the Cleveland Browns going into New York to take on the Jets. Not much to say here. Cleveland's going to steamroll the New York Jets and officially clinch their playoff spot for the first time in, 15, 20 years. So I'm picking the Cleveland Browns to beat the New York Jets. Our next matchup for Sunday sees the Philadelphia Eagles going into Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Dallas is coming off of that win last week against the San Francisco 49ers. Philadelphia played a good, hard, tough game against the Arizona Cardinals and just fell a little bit short. So this is going to be a good matchup between these NFC East opponents. Listen, if Washington really does lose to Carolina, this is a chance for Dallas to... I think so. I think they'll officially... if Dallas wins this game, they'll officially have 6 wins and 6 wins and 9 losses. That sounds right. 6 wins and 9 losses. And they'll be tied for first, potentially even in the first place spot in the NFC East. So I'm really hoping that happens just because it'll be exciting. It'll be exciting to have potentially a 6-10 team hosting a playoff game or a 7-9 team. So I'm really pulling for Dallas to win this game and Washington to lose to make this a little bit more exciting. So I'm picking the Cowboys to beat the Eagles. If the Eagles, on the other hand, win this game, they'll improve to a record of 5-8-1. And if they win this week and they win in Week 17 against the Washington football team, they will be the division winners. It'll be interesting. There's a lot of crazy scenarios right now that can play out in the NFC East. Literally every team is still alive in the NFC East. Even the Giants that I think also have 4 or 5 wins, they're still right in the thick of the playoff race in the NFC East. So it's pretty funny. It's a weird year. Hey, 2020, we have a pandemic. We have the dumpster fire of the NFC East. So we'll see what happens. I'm picking the Cowboys to beat the Eagles, though. So now going into our Sunday night matchup, we have the Tennessee Titans going into Green Bay to take on the Packers. I think right now the Packers are the team to beat in the NFC. I think it's them. Well, they've already shown that they could beat the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints have been faltering lately. I don't know. I think Green Bay is the most complete team. Offense, defense, running the ball, throwing the ball. They probably have the MVP and Aaron Rodgers on their team. On the other side, the Tennessee Titans have not been too bad themselves. They still have King Henry running the ball, literally just shoving little kids out of the way as he makes his way down the sideline. I think this is actually going to be a really good game. Very, very good. Ryan Tannehill, he hasn't been as good this year as he was last year, but he's still done enough to lead Tennessee to what's most likely going to end up being a playoff spot for the Tennessee Titans. So I think this is a good matchup of 2 playoff teams. However, I'm going to favor the home team on this cold winter night that probably favors the Green Bay Packers, considering they play on this all the time. If Tennessee wants a chance to win this game, they're probably going to need to pound the rock with their Derrick Henry at least 40 times. Keep Rodgers off the field. Just keep moving the chains, running the ball. And I think if they can do that, they can get this win here. However, I'm picking the Green Bay Packers to win this game against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday Night Football. And for our last matchup on Monday Night Football, we again have a battle of AFC East opponents as Buffalo goes into New England to take on the Patriots. The New England Patriots were officially eliminated from playoffs with their loss last week, so their playoff hopes are over. Buffalo officially clinched their division crown last week, which is good for them. That's like their first division crown. I think it was like 25 years. And so I think Buffalo really wants to stomp on the Patriots just to show that, hey, this is going to be their division for the next decade or so, hopefully. So I think Buffalo is going to come out here and just try to crush the New England Patriots. And so I don't see this game being very close. I think Buffalo puts up 30 to 40 points, holds New England to 17 points or so. I'm picking the Buffalo Bills to win this matchup on Monday Night Football. So now just to run through all of our matchups again, starting out with on Friday, on Christmas Day, we have the Minnesota Vikings going into New Orleans to take on the Saints. I have the Saints winning as my lock of the week. Again, my lock of the week is the Saints beating the Vikings. We have 3 matchups on Saturday, starting off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going into Detroit to take on the Lions. I'm picking the Buccaneers to win. The Miami Dolphins going into Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. I have the Raiders winning. And lastly, the San Francisco 49ers going into Arizona to take on the Cardinals. I have Arizona winning that game as well. Okay. Now moving into our Sunday matchups, we have the Carolina Panthers going into Washington. I have the Carolina Panthers as my upset of the week, beating the Washington football team. We have the Indianapolis Colts going into Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. I have the Colts winning. I have the Chiefs beating the Falcons. The Chicago Bears beating the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Houston Texans beating the Cincinnati Bengals. The Baltimore Ravens beating the New York Giants. The Cleveland Browns beating the New York Jets. The Los Angeles Chargers beating the Denver Broncos. The Seattle Seahawks clinching the division and beating the Los Angeles Rams. And lastly, the Dallas Cowboys beating the Philadelphia Eagles. Going into Sunday Night Football, we have the Tennessee Titans going into Green Bay to take on the Packers. I have the Packers winning that matchup. And lastly, for our Monday night matchup, we have the Buffalo Bills going into Foxborough to take on the Patriots, and I have the Bills winning that game as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. This has been another episode of the Randall Handles Football Podcast. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all.
I don't care who you play, whether it's a high school team, a junior college team, a college team, much less an NFL team. When you turn the ball over 5 times, 4 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, 3 others in field position to set up touchdowns, you ain't going to beat anybody I just talked about. Anybody. All right? And that was a disgraceful performance, in my opinion. We threw that game. We gave it away by doing that. We gave them the friggin' game. In my opinion, that sucked. What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.